continue sanctions against the coup regime in Honduras. Those are the comments of the Nobel Peace Prize-winning Costa Rican President Oscar Arias, who's trying to mediate negotiations between ousted Honduran president and the coup leaders. He was speaking at a Latin American summit in Costa Rica, a day after the U.S. State Department's decision Tuesday to revoke the visas of 4 Honduran coup officials, though the U.S. has not cut off more than $180 million in economic aid. The Honduran coup officials have indicated a willingness to negotiate. They have, quote, not yet recognized that President Zelaya should be reinstated, Arias told reporters in Costa Rica on Wednesday night. Meanwhile, protests in support of Zelaya continue in the Honduran capital and near the border with Nicaragua. Well, today, in a Democracy Now! Broadcast exclusive, we bring you an interview with the ousted Honduran President Manuel Zelaya, who is on the border with Honduras and Nicaragua on the Nicaragua side. I spoke to President Zelaya on Wednesday afternoon, a month after he was seized by armed soldiers and flown out of his country. Do you have any breaking news for us at this hour?
The presidents of Central America are meeting now in Costa Rica. And they're also putting together a condemnation of the coup, and I think they're going to take more measures against the coup leaders throughout Latin America.
Do you have any plans to join them in Costa Rica?
I have sent my representative, who is the vice president, Ousted Mejia. He will be there representing me, and also recognizing the effort being made by President Obama by revoking the visas of the coup leaders. It's a good sign that declares the coup leaders as enemies of humanity.
It's widely recognized that the coup would not stand without U.S. support. What more do you think the United States has to do now?
I realize that President Barack Obama and the State Department were not involved in the coup, but some very conservative sectors in the United States, sectors of the extreme right wing, have a double standard. They talk about democracy on the inside, and outside they talk about dictatorship.
Hillary Clinton, the Secretary of State, said your going over the border from Nicaragua into Honduras was reckless. Your response?
Well, she doesn't have all the necessary information that I have on the repression in the country that's being suffered by the people. I have to get close to the people to give them support.
Do you plan to go into Honduras again over the border?
I would do it right now if I could. But the military are threatening to assassinate me, to kidnap me. I've never been tried or condemned. This is a de facto regime that's null and void.
What about your family? They are attempting to reach you in Nicaragua. What is the situation?
My family will only go through the military checkpoints without breaking the state of siege when they give them security for their safety going in and out.
They have not got assurances at this point, Mr. President?
Not at all. Last night, in a community that's 60 kilometers from the border, El Paraíso, 12 kilometers from there, last night, they went to machine gun the hotel and shout at them with megaphones. The police, supported by the military, are trying to terrorize my family.
While President Obama called your ouster a coup originally, The State Department is refusing to call it a coup now. Your response, Mr. President?
Everyone in the world, governments, international organizations, all the lawyers and judges in the world have called the fact of capturing a president at 5 a.m. without trying him, shooting arms, that's a coup d'etat. No one doubts that that's a coup d'etat.
Would it matter if the U.S. government proclaimed this loudly now? Do you want to hear the President, the Secretary of State, call it a coup?
Bueno, si ellos consideran el análisis,
well, if they look at the analysis, they should call for an international tribunal to condemn them and make this coup guilty of mass killing, because a coup d'etat takes power away from people to name their president. The president can only be named by the people, not by the United States and not by the armed forces. Only the people can.
Have you accepted the Arias Accords, the Costa Rica Accords? What do you want to see in order to return to your country?
We accepted the original proposal of President Arias that had 7 points. We accepted the OAS and the UN proposals. The coup leaders have not accepted it.
In an article in the Wall Street Journal, Micheletti says they will abide by the Arias Accords. Is this true, though they say they do want to see you prosecuted?
I am willing to submit to a trial at any time, but not to the justice of Micheletti or the military justice of the coup leaders. That's not justice. That's an illegal regime and a de facto one.
Do you want to see the coup leaders tried?
Of course. That should be a norm in any country in order to prevent coup d'etats. If the reactionary right begins to use arms, there are going to be uprisings, the guerrilla will reappear, there'll be insurrections as a method, and no one will be able to govern in these countries. There's hot blood running.
Lanny Davis, President Clinton's lawyer, is the lawyer for the Honduras chapter of the Business Council of Latin America. He says he represents Camilo Atala and Jorge Canahuati. Who are they, as he speaks against your government?
The coup has 3 actors. Those who finance it are them. They finance it. The intellectual authors are political structures, and those who carry it out, which are the military. Those are the 3 actors in the coup.
And who is providing the finances? Are you saying that it is these people, Atala and Canahuati?
There are others on the list. There are 10 economic groups.
Vasquez Velasquez was trained at the School of the Americas at Fort Benning, Georgia. Now there are Honduran soldiers training there. Do you think that the training should stop?
I think training should take place based on democratic values, not based on values of coup d'etats. There are many honorable and patriotic military. These military have betrayed the armed forces and betrayed the people.
Do you think the U.S. should cut off economic aid, more than $180 million to Honduras until you are restored?
I think the United States is going to lose a great deal of influence in Latin America if it does not turn the coup d'etat around. It will not be able to put forth its idea about democracy. It won't be credible before anyone.
What do you think is the single most important action the United States can do now?
The United States is trying to resolve the coup in a peaceful and diplomatic way, and I agree with those manners, but I feel that it must be stronger. Because when a coup d'etat takes place, this is an act of international terrorism, which affects security in the hemisphere because it revives the desire for machine guns as opposed to democratic dialogue, and it produces violence, and it should be stopped with greater force.
Ousted Honduran President Manuel Zelaya. In our national broadcast exclusive, we'll come back to this discussion after break, where the ousted Honduran president will talk about his attempts to return home and who's behind the coup and more.